When you say welcome to the new age, is they hearing you say that?
I don't know, but I can hear the clap in this thing. They clapping.
Yeah.
Welcome to the new age.
So then you don't need to say it. He gonna say it.
Right, that's what that's what I was.
If you say it, that's fine, but we don't want. Oh no, because he don't got no mic to say it, right?
It's fine. Go figure it out.
Yeah.
You should hear this.
I was listening to it the other day.
What's that? That's our intro?
It's like sound effects.
That's all y'all got it. I can't wait to hear this shit.
Yo,
But it's cheesy though. It's cheesy.
But if you know what to press,
Don't be over there clicking buttons. You can click it the first time. Don't be over there just clicking.
you should just hear what I just clicked.
Come on.
Let's go.
I'm ready when you is.
We good. We in a minute. Let's go.
Alright, let's go. Welcome to the new age. So I was reading a Wall Street Journal article the other day, right? It said U.S. households added $13.5 trillion in wealth last year. According to the Federal Reserve, the biggest increase in records going back 3 decades. Many Americans of all stripes paid off credit card debt, saved more, and refinanced into cheaper mortgages. That challenged the conventions of previous economic downturns. In 2008, for example, U.S. households lost $8 trillion.
Dang.
So let me read that back. $13.5 trillion in wealth last year was gained in U.S. households. In 2008, $8 trillion was lost.
Ooh, that's a big difference. That's a
Big
huge
difference.
You said trillion? 13?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, trillion. So my thank you for the interruption with your phone call. But my direction I'm going at with this is, where do you think that comes from in the last crash that we had, which was in 2020?
That's a good question. Probably, I would probably attest the biggest difference would be the amount of money that's been printed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, during this crisis, financial crisis,
Yeah.
it's been a lot more money that's been printed through these stimulus packages and everything. So I probably would attribute it to that.
Do you think that the pandemic has made Americans richer or poor? Because the wealth gap has increased. So what do you think about that?
I would say it's a two-sided coin. Yeah, I would say it's a two-sided coin only because the reports, if I look at the media, I'll hear both report. You know, I hear more of the reports from the Federal Reserve and how much money has been gifted, so to speak,
Right.
to the American people, as well as globally.
Right.
But when I look, you know, some of the conversations I hear, a lot, especially in my community, in our community,
Yeah.
you couldn't tell that much money has been allotted to the people. So I think that it probably has not been evenly dispersed, so to speak.
And when you say evenly distributed, can you go into detail? Because the wealth gap has gotten bigger, but like stimulus packages went out. So it has been average American aid, you know, and it's continued to be average American aid to this day.
Right. So, for instance, remember when they first released the PPP loans and things like that?
Right.
A lot of the wealthy businesses was able to get some of that free grant money and things like that. So, things like that. Whereas though a lot of the smaller businesses were suffering, continue to suffer today, and even some of their doors have been closed as a result. So things like that, it's been reported that all of the money that's been signed into bills still has not been dispersed from the 3 stimulus packages that were released. So I just think that the money wasn't, as a result, I think that the money wasn't evenly dispersed based off of what I just shared.
Got you. So let me go into this article from BBC. It says more than 5 million people became millionaires across the world in 2020, despite economic damage from COVID-19. While many poor people became poor, the number of millionaires increased by 5.2 million to 56.1 million globally. In 2012, more than 1% of adults worldwide were millionaires for the first time. Recovering stock markets, soaring housing prices helped boost their wealth. So, is that a systemic thing, or do you think that's average Americans, average people globally just seizing the opportunity?
That's a good question. One thing I will say that probably goes directly to the end part of your question. I will say a lot more opportunity has been created. Statistics show that the exchanges like Robinhood, Fidelity, E-Trader, different things like that has gotten an enormous amount of new subscribers. And we're talking about in the millions and tens of millions. So it's also been recorded that bank accounts, a lot of people are saving a lot more money. So I could see the substance in that article stating that about 5 million. You said 5 million plus more people became millionaires.
Well, let me go back to the article really quickly, just to make sure we got our facts straight. I'm not sure if it was 5 million or was it 5 million the base number. So 5 million was the base number.
Okay.
56.1 million was the result.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So 10 times.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
Basically.
That's interesting. 10 times during a pandemic.
Right. During a pandemic, economic crisis, recession, depression, whatever you want to call it.
Wow.
So, and then this is going to be the last article I read from Medium, right? 13 massive companies that started during a recession, right? I'm going to just go down the list. General Electric in 1892. Okay. IBM in 1911. Disney in 1929. That was the Great Depression.
Right.
HP in 1939.
Hewlett Packard.
Say it again.
Hewlett. Okay, HP. Yeah. Hewlett Packard. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
1957 was Hyatt.
Hotel industry.
Yep. 1958 was Trader Joe's.
Okay.
1971 was FedEx.
Wow.
1975 was Microsoft. 1982 was Electronic Arts, EA Sports.
Wow. Need some big companies, big conglomerates. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Right. So, and then we got some honorable mentions, and that is Facebook, Google, and Salesforce, which was 1998 for Google, 1999 for Salesforce, and 2004 for Facebook. So I'm assuming the Facebook one was shortly before the Great Recession. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna add 2 more to that.
Go ahead.
Uber started in 2009. That was right after the Great Recession. Bitcoin launched in 2009. So I'll say that, you can, just going off of the statistics and those companies where they said at the day, it's been proven that you can amass wealth in disastrous times.
But so I'm gonna ask you a direct question.
Okay.
Do you think recessions, depressions, crashes help aid opportunity?
Personally, I would say yeah,
And why so?
because of how number one, because of my own personal experience. There's one company that we did leave off the list, the crash of 2020, and what it's doing for New Age,
Right.
and what it'll do,
Which is our company.
yeah, how it's propelling us
Right.
to be the next Amazon, Facebook, Uber, Bitcoin,
Right.
etc., Microsoft, and keep going down the line.
Right.
So we definitely don't want to leave ourselves off that list.
Not at all.
But let's get back to your question. I think that solutions, anytime there's crises, is always a solution make. And so crises create opportunities, right? Through services, resources, information, etc. So for me personally, in when the pandemic hit, it caused us to, my company, I'm a carpenter by trade, right? And I was making really, really great money in that industry. In March of 2020, when everything shut down, of course it affected us because we were shut down. We had to shut down as well.
Right.
So I went from making about anywhere from $4,500 to $6,000 a month on average to zero, so to speak. Through that income. Through my check. But what it did was it gave me back my time. And I'm a thinker. I tell people all the time, if you allow me to use my mind,
Right.
I can bring more value, exponential value to anything that I'm a part of. Right. Versus using my body and my brute,
Right.
so to speak. But anyway, when we shut down, my income stopped. But at the same time, resources were supplied through government aid, right? We talked about the difference between 2008 and 2020, and I stated that the Fed, kept releasing financial support. So I was able to study the markets with that time. The traditional stock market as well as the crypto market. So I had took some of my the money that I had saved and some of the money that was allotted, and I began to invest into the traditional markets as well as the stock markets. In the beginning, it was rough, but within a 12-month period of time, from May of 2020 to May of 2021, I was able to amass almost 5 times my salary. So again, that allowed me to launch or help us to usher in New Age from a resource, whereas though in 2019 we was looking for funding.
Right.
and
getting rejected, by the way.
Right. But the pandemic allowed us to be put in position to fund our own company. And that's how it's affected me personally. Won't you share how it's affected you personally?
I mean, similar to what you just said, I feel as though the crash happened. I was, a part-time worker, probably wasn't making more than $15,000 a year. $15,000 a year. I took, the time that I did have, the little bit of money that I did have, and started investing and started getting into the stock market. I got into the stock market pretty much a year into the pandemic, or at least 10 months into the pandemic. So I started in January
of this year.
January of this year. Yep.
Okay.
From January to February, that first month I was in the stock market, I made $10K in 1 month. $10K in 1 month. That's basically a year's salary for me.
Yeah, oh, right.
So
close to it, huh?
Right. So I went from there. Then 6 months later, I was able to keep growing. So, and now this is where I'm at. So, that's what it did for me. I seized the opportunity, though.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's what.
Talk more about opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's what most of us miss out on.
Okay.
Is, when it's a pandemic, when it's a recession, when it's a crash, it's easy to be like, well, what I'm going to do now? I don't got no job. I'm on government aid. I can just sit back, try to find another job. I can just sit off of, government funding for a couple more months, whatever I can do to keep just my wheels turning,
Uh-huh.
I sat back and was like, it's an opportunity in this, and it's an opportunity that was presented to me. Why wouldn't I try to go after this? Why wouldn't I invest my money? Because if your money ain't working for you, you working for it. And if you working for it, you a slave at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did in January. I started making my money work for me. And ever since then, I ain't looked back. I ain't looked back.
The difference between your outcome versus somebody who else outcome who's
I know what you're saying.
okay, the complete opposite.
Yeah. The difference is, one, excuse me, you have to take the time out to educate yourself. And I don't feel like a lot of us, most of us, commit to really educating ourselves.
Now, when you say education, we're not talking about academia.
Yeah, when I talk education, I'm never talking about academia.
Okay.
I'm talking about self-education, however you can get that.
Okay.
So I think a lot
whatever industry of your desires.
Right.
Go ahead.
So I think a lot of us don't take the time out to do that.
Okay.
And then after you educated, you still got to put in the work.
Right.
You still got to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go out here and not try, but execute.
Right.
And if you can put the education plus execution, you'll get excellence.
Okay.
You'll get excellence. So I think I put those two together, and I'm a long way from where I think I can be, but that was the door opener.
Got it.
That's what broke the glass.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself in this company in the next 3 to 5 years? Because they say most businesses, it take 3 to 5 years. Within the first 3 to 5 years, they fail.
Yeah.
So with you just starting, or us just starting, where do you see us at in the next 3 to 5 years? Do we fail? Are we maintaining, or the growth that you envision to take place?
I think New Age is a media conglomerate waiting to happen. So I think first it starts with the day in, day out mentality, the brick by brick mentality. And then 3 to 5 years, I think it goes from a content base to a brand/platform base to a daily life application.
Okay.
That's where I see New Age. And it's hard for me. I mean, obviously, if you was in my brain, you could understand. It's hard for me to draw up a clear picture of it. But that's what the goal of it is.
Got it.
And I think within 3 to 5 years, I think we'll definitely be there.
Got it. Okay.
On that note, welcome to the New Age. Like, comment, subscribe. We out here.